All aboard! Next stop, Chicago Junction.
Yes, it's time for this year's new rendition of Chicago Junction, a program that takes you through the wonderful world of trains, with help from our panel of experts, and sometimes we have calling guests and visitors. I'm your announcer, Brian Valou, and here is our boss, the head of the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, and Chief Electrical Engineer, Mr. John DeVita.
Well, thank you very much, Brian, and Happy New Year to all our panelists and all our listeners. Welcome to another broadcast of Chicago Junction from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Wednesday, January the 11th, the year 2023. Today, the panel will be talking about railroads and model railroads. And now to start today's broadcast, here's our announcer, Mr. Brian.
Thank you, John. And let's meet the panel I'm part of. I'm Brian Valou. I'm a retired Navy, also basically retired railroader, engineer, conductor. Play with model trains. Mostly Lionel, both big scale and O gauge. And for some reason, I just love reading stories about trains. So I got a hell of a library. To my right.
He's looking at me. What are you looking at me for?
I'm Ron Messner, and I'm a garden railroad. And I love to take pictures of trains and bridges that are pertain to railroading.
Dave DeRuska, retired locomotive engineer and Grand Poobah of Chicago Railroad History Month. This year is the 175th anniversary of
Yay!
railroading in Chicago. The Pioneer left Kinsey Street, heading west in October, and carrying a bunch of dignitaries. It came back with some farm goods, and the farmers weren't charged for it, and it was the last time that anything got carried for free on a railroad in Chicago.
That you know of.
That I know of.
All right. My name is Tim Fraun. I'm one of the newer panelists to this interesting podcast. It's pretty cool to be on. I'm a model railroader. Been interested in trains since I was a young guy. So anyway, let's get going.
Okay, Dave. Would you like to?
Oh yeah. Here we're gonna file this under. Maybe we should have driven. Delayed Amtrak auto train arrives 37 hours after departure.
Yes, it did.
Passengers traveling on the Amtrak auto train from a Washington, D.C. suburb Monday evening expecting to arrive in Orlando area by Tuesday morning, but their planned 17-hour journey experienced significant delays caused by a freight derailment. The train rolled into the station at Sanford, Florida on Wednesday morning, ending a 37-hour trip. The 563 passengers and 333 vehicles aboard had been delayed by almost 20 hours. So I won't continue reading this, but another fine Amtrak trip. I also noticed that in the lower corner here, I see Amtrak passengers stuck on train for more than 23 hours. That must be something recent. Do you know anything about that?
There was one in Michigan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, people got off the train. No, they called Uber and stuff to pick them up. There was engine failure.
I saw another article that says Siemens is working closely with Amtrak to uncover the bugs with their Charger locomotives, with their garbage.
Burn all those units.
Yeah,
and
really,
say,
really.
We want P42s. We want P42s.
Yeah, they can't find enough old locomotives in their roster to cover for all these broken down Chargers.
That's because most of them are probably wrecked out in Beech Grove.
Okay.
Well, they run them to death.
We need to have a moment of silence for Dirt. Dirt was the cat at the Nevada Northern Railroad.
Yeah.
Hung out in the
shop. In the shop.
It passed away. He passed away.
You're kidding.
15 years old.
No kidding.
But they have a Dirt Junior to cover, so
Oh,
they had a spare.
They had a standby. Oh,
Yeah.
right.
The Genesee and Wyoming's donation of the former Chicago and Illinois Midland 30 EMD RS1325 has been finalized. Diesel Shop members made the trip to the Atlantic and Western Railway in Sanford, North Carolina on Monday to prepare the locomotive for the move back to Illinois and IRM. And so that's a new addition to and I think that's a very rare locomotive.
What, RS1?
RS1 1325, yeah. What is it, RE?
Oh, wait a minute. No, that's that switcher. There only two of them were built.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
Chicago and Illinois Midland.
Yeah.
You see, now I know which RS you're talking about.
Yeah.
You almost blew his mind.
The there's a if you're interested in online Zoom meetings, there will be a free online program, The Lady Engineer and the Train, Remembering Olive W. Dennis and the Cincinnatian, on Tuesday evening, January 17th, 2023. That's coming very soon. I don't know if we're going to be on the air before then. This will be an immersive experience aboard the first run of the Baltimore and Ohio Cincinnatian luxury streamliner in January of 1947. The online experience was a creation of a remarkable civil engineer, Olive Wetzel Dennis. Historian Sharon Harwood will detail Dennis's contributions to the B&O Railroad as a real railroader and take us on an inaugural run of this remarkable train. So if you go to railphoto-org, railphoto-art.org event, Olive-Dennis, you can sign up for it. It's free, no charge. And here's a woulda, shoulda, coulda. Facebook spent $20 million on plans to revive a railway line that would run near its office. Meta's Juan Salazar told the New York Times it wanted to reduce congestion caused by its staff. Political pressure and impatience put pressure on plans that were abandoned due to the pandemic. Facebook spent $20 million on plans to revive an old railway line to Silicon Valley, but political hurdles and COVID-19 led to the abandonment of the idea, the report says. The New York Times reported that the company tried to renovate the Dumbarton Rail Bridge to streamline traffic to its headquarters while expanding its property portfolio. The Times reported that Warren Slocum, president of the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors, wanted to restore the Dunbar Rail Corridor, an 18-mile stretch that passes Metra's Menlo Park headquarters. To do so, the bridge, which has laid dormant for 4 decades, would need a costly renovation. Slocum told the Times he approached tech companies, including Facebook, in 2017 to discuss securing funds, but it never happened. Facebook spent $20 million over the next 3 years, including hiring staff with experience in rail projects and contracting consultants to look at things including pods to transport commuters across the corridor. Parts of the railway were expected to be operational by 2028. However, several factions conspired to see the $2.6 billion project shelved. More than a dozen people told the Times that political dysfunction, shocking, in the region and Facebook's own growing impatience put early pressures on plans. The end came when the pandemic struck and ushered in a new era of remote working. unintentionally solving much of Silicon Valley's traffic problems. I was heartbroken, said Slocum said of the project's collapse. I understood some of the business reasons, but heartbroken nonetheless. Meta has sought to reduce office staff in recent months and laid off 11,000 employees in November as it bets on VR as its bets on VR continues to hemorrhage money. Boo-hoo. So I'll take a break there. I got more stuff, but somebody else can step in.
Well, Patriot Rail completes acquisition of the Delta Southern short line. Patriot Rail yesterday completed the acquisition of Delta Southern Railway, Inc., short line operating 2 segments in Louisiana. Transaction closed following regulatory authorization. Financial terms were not disclosed, including Delta Southern in Patriot Rail's growing network will enable further competitive options for rail shippers in Louisiana across the country, says Patriot Rail President CEO John Fenton in a press release. DSRR operates more than 40 miles of track between 2 lines and serves the Lake Providence Port and Madison Porish Port located on the Mississippi River. DSRR interchanges with Kansas City Southern and the Union Pacific Railroad. The short line is well situated in a long petrochemical corridor with customer base consisting of several large-scale chemical manufacturers as well as forest industry shippers, according to Patriot Rail. The acquisition expands Patriot Rail Louisiana footprint, which includes Louisiana Northwest Railroad. Based in Homer, L&W provides rail service from Gibbsland, Louisiana to McNeil, Arkansas.
Good thing it was empty.
The implementation of precision scheduled railroading at the nation's largest freight railroads has resulted in longer trains, reductions in staff and assets, but the strategy's impact on safety is inconclusive, according to the U.S. Government Accountability Office. Issued last week, the GAO report explores the impact of PSR at 6 of the 7 Class 1s that reported implementing the operational strategy. Representatives of railroads, employee union, shippers, and other stakeholders were interviewed in preparation for the report. GAO officials say in a press release. The report describes stockholder views in operational changes associated with PSR and what is known about the extent of these changes, the effects of operational changes of freight rail safety, and what the Federal Railroad Administration has done to monitor those effects, and the impact of operational changes on rail rate service, as well as what the Surface Transportation Board has done to monitor it. Overall, the number of employees at the Class 1s fell by about 28% from 2011 through 2021. The report states, further, all 7 railroads said they have increased the length of the trains in recent years. However, FRA officials say that the data from 2011 to 2021 are inconclusive about the extent to which the operational changes associated with PSR may have affected the rail safety. Although Class 1's representatives generally stated that the PSR improved or had no effect on railroad safety, The rail safety inspectors and employees identified safety concerns related to reductions in staff, longer trains. In response, the FRA has several efforts underway now to monitor the effects of such changes. Those efforts include analyzing safety data, conducting compliance inspections, reviewing existing regulations. The FRA also plans to address potential risk as in employee fatigue and the effects of longer trains. And I haven't talked about some of those accidents that happened around them sharp curves. Oh, yes. And right behind this story came your favorite subject. UP to test expediter rules to improve conductors' quality of life.
The quality of life, yeah. Sitting in a truck. Hope they'll put a tape deck in.
Oh,
An 8-track.
yeah.
They can listen to country and western music.
You're supposed to be working.
No, they don't have to. As long as they're not working, they can listen to country and western music.
Yes, they can. Yes,
Yeah.
they can.
And it probably, makes them better expediters.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Expediter.
It's a 4-phase pilot program
Yeah, right.
that calls for redeploying traditional conductors as ground-based expediters
Geez, sounds like a disaster to me.
to address certain service issues. In Class 1's announced this week, years in the making, pilot calls for applying technology to the conductor's roles to improve safety and quality of life. Rod Dorr, UP Vice President of Crew Management System. Interline Operations. I've seen something like this before in a movie. No, did you ever see that movie about the diver? The first black man,
Yeah.
the diver? And he had this one officer that followed him his whole career. And he ends up writing, and he doesn't do any diving or anything, but he changes all the rules. And says, well, we just want him to be stronger. And, no, he does not need help getting up in the suit and stuff like that. The 300-pound suit.
I'm curious as to how 12 hours on the road or 12 hours in the truck makes a better lifestyle for somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they're not going to say, okay, well, we're going to change the hours of service now for the expediter. He only has to work 8 hours. No, they'll work 12.
Yeah.
And then how's he going to be relieved? Somebody else in another truck going to come out and get him?
See,
No, they'll send How Weird Cab out there.
yeah. I mean, it's
Stupid.
there are things.
But hey, it's a pilot program. They'll iron
Yeah.
out all the problems, just like those Charger locomotives.
You got it.
Yep. Nothing like corporate corporations. They know they can do it.
Well, what gets
Not a
me-
problem. We've got experts working on this.
Yeah.
We have people who've never worked for the railroad figuring all this out.
Let alone
And they're
do-
experts?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
And
are.
They probably have no idea how to operate a locomotive.
Hello?
Just hire more consultants.
Yeah.
That's the solution to every
Well,
problem.
yeah.
They
Well,
don't
get
know
the-
nothing.
Yeah.
It says here, UP's goal is to replace the unknowns that conductors experience during a regular shift and schedule. They're unknowns for a reason you don't know.
Right, and that's what makes the job interesting.
If successful, the project will provide employees with more control over quality of life issues, even sick leave, the Post states.
Because they don't want to listen to them.
They don't.
Today,
give sick leave.
Today, the train conductor's job primarily consists of preparing a train for departure and occasionally addressing minor mechanical issues that occur en route. It's a job much better served by ground-based truck service responding to planned or unplanned events dispatched from centralized locations around the rail network.
Yeah, once every 300 miles.
UP envisions the role where the expediter receives a service call from an en route train, drives to that train, performs a service request, and then drives back to a prescribed base. Our data suggests that in most cases this will take less time than having an onboard conductor attempt the same task, leading to a more consistent transit times
Not at the train.
and less delay at public crossings. The pilot will be tested at various locations, territories, and grades, with a broad traffic mix, as well as different service requirements, ease of access, and in each tested subdivision, UP will determine if the ground-based expediter can perform traditional conductor role tasks more safely and efficiently. During the pilot, the conductor will stay on a train to perform his or her role, document dates and times of service activities, and the time it takes to complete them. The expediter will also do the same from the ground. And at the end of the pilot, UP will compare the results and adjust the plan as necessary.
In other words, they're going to go ahead with it anyways.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, no matter what the results are.
That is true. And that's all the news I got.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny that, with this expediter stuff, they really think it's going to work, huh? No, it won't.
They've been talking about this since I started on the railroad in '96.
It's like, the
95.
one man crew, and now they have a different word for it. Expediter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we'll keep
still
the conductor.
talking, and they're still talking about it.
Right.
No action is being taken.
No, they
Never will happen. Probably.
pilot program.
Yeah.
2 words. Pilot program.
Oh, definitely.
The thing that's going to be interesting is, geez, so they think that a expediter can do a better job than what a conductor can and get to mechanical problems like broken knuckle someplace better than a conductor can. Well, I hope they probably haven't figured out whether the train breaks a knuckle in a canyon someplace. How's the damn expediter to get there?
So they'll
They'll give them a helicopter.
Up there, so it's just
no, not a helicopter.
Or a drone.
A drone.
Send it with a drone.
They're going to make stronger drones.
Well, hey,
2 drones, one for the expediter and one for the knuckle. And then it gets down there and it's like, oh, that's the wrong knuckle.
I'm requesting parts. Can you send X amount by drone?
Like that. I broke a knuckle once over by on ENS when I was on a tank car, and pulled the train ahead, stuck the knuckle on the rear end, shoved back, wrong knuckle. Ended up the NS luckily had one, and a guy in a truck came out, brought it out, gave it to the conductor, and we fixed it. But there's no standardization.
No.
I mean, most of the knuckles, 99% of the knuckles are like that.
Yeah,
but
but
you're
some
going
of
to
them
get the
are
oddball.
some of them are double shelf.
Yeah.
Like the tank cars.
What are you going to do? We got some
Just
calendar stuff here. January 21st, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles Model Railroad Plastic Model Kit and Die-Cast Swap Meet and Show. 9 to 3, St. John Lutheran Church, Cass Avenue, Darien, Illinois. Adult admission 5, children 12 to 17 2, children under 12 free. January 29th, the Black Hawk chapter of the National Railway Historical Society's Winter Swap Meet and Railroad Hotspots of Gary movie program at the American Legion Post 66, 132 North Wiggs Street, Griffith, Indiana, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Free admission, $2 donation suggested. February 3rd, the Blackhawk chapter will have its monthly meeting. Be looking at a video presentation of the Santa Fe's Chillicothe subdivision as it was in November and December of 1966, just weeks away before the merger with Burlington Northern. February 5th, the Great Midwest Train Show, 9 to 3 at the DuPage County Fairgrounds. Wheaton, Illinois, admission $7. February 18th, the Train Show and Farm Toy Show. Woo! 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Bureau County Fairgrounds, Route 6 West, Princeton, Illinois. Adult admission 5, children 10 and under free. February 19th, the Peoria and Pekin Train Show, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Illinois Central College, Route 24, 1 mile east of Route 16, East Peoria, Illinois. Adult admission 3, children under 12, free with an adult. So that's it from the Black Hawk newsletter. Very interesting newsletter. Lori Lightfoot urges feds to fund Amtrak's proposed $850 million revamp of Chicago Union Station and local train services. Their proposed Chicago Hub Improvement Program would establish new passenger train routes in Union Station from the south and allow Amtrak and Metro trains to run more often. More than 50 other Midwestern mayors support the plan. Ooh, yeah. I think, does that include shifting the NS over to LaSalle Street? It may. Amtrak Intercity Long Distance Rail Service is the subject of a new federal study. Yet another study.
Well, they spend more money on studies.
They do. The Federal Railroad Administration will evaluate restarting discontinued trains and routes with reduced service.
Like, tri-weekly. That is... CSX got that done, too. They were able to get them to do the tri-weekly service. The Cardinal.
New Orleans Mobile Amtrak service rolls forward with rail agreement. Well, they finally agreed to that. Passenger rail service is closer than ever to being restored between New Orleans, Louisiana, and Mobile, Alabama, thanks to settlement letting Amtrak run on railroad companies' tracks linking the two cities. Amtrak, CSX, Norfolk Southern, and the Alabama State Port Authority have told the U.S. Surface Transportation Board that an agreement has been reached to support passenger and freight service on the same tracks in the Gulf Coast corridor. Closer to home, intercity rail project through Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Illinois entering the final design stages. Twin Cities Milwaukee City Intercity Rail Passenger Project, that's a mouthful, TCMC for short, which will add a second daily round-trip passenger train along the 411-mile corridor between St. Paul and Chicago. The additional passenger train would use Amtrak's existing Empire Builder and Hiawatha routes. Proponents of the Twin Cities Duluth Passenger Rail hope DFL control will help their cause. Supporters of a proposed passenger line between Duluth and the Twin Cities are optimistic the project could soon receive state funding needed to move forward after years of planning. For years, the Northern Lights Express rail project has failed to gain traction in the Minnesota legislature, largely due to Republican opposition. But after Democrats won a majority of the Senate in the 2022 election and secured control of the Minnesota government, the state is closer than ever to chipping in the funds needed to unlock federal backing for the $450 million project. Shall I keep reading?
Oh, you can. I've got some too, just like yours.
Oh, Okay, well, I'll read one more and I'll let you have it.
Oh, no, you don't have
Why are there not more passenger rail systems in Indiana? Advocacy groups experts weigh in. Well, 3 letters. GOP. They don't like trains. They don't.
Not in my backyard.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
NIMBYs
right.
too. Okay, I'll stop.
I'll tell you what, they're talking about a lot of cancellations. I was looking between November and December. Michigan's been getting hit hard with cancellations. The Wolverine's been taking big hits. That was the one train that with the passengers that were on, where they wouldn't let them off.
There was no food. The toilets clogged up.
Oh, the whole 9 yards.
Jesus.
Only the best.
And they like I said, that Uber worked. People were piling in the cars.
They're throwing them on the luggage racks.
That's it. Oh man.
Nice.
But like now they started up again. Let's see, where we go. Oh, that's December 1. Huh. I mean, it's funny the way some of these talking about. Take my eye off the page and it's gone. There we go. Okay. CSX stabs a cardinal. So what else is new?
Yeah, right.
Cardinal left Indianapolis on time, but was 6 hours and 16 minutes late arriving in Cincinnati. You can make it there in 90 minutes driving.
What was the delay?
There was a Queensgate Symbol Freight. That's Queensgate Yard in Cincinnati. Stalled on a hill near Brownsville, Indiana, and since 50's crew from Indianapolis turns at Huntington, West Virginia for 51, 50's late arrival resulted in an almost on-time 51 leaving 2 hours and 46 minutes late. Amtrak rarely calls extra board engineers for the Cardinal. On October 14th, a 17,000-foot-long, 14,000-ton Queensgate Big 4 stalled with an air leak on a distributed power unit about 10 miles east of Indianapolis Station. The longest of the 96-mile Indianapolis sub's 6 immediate sightings was only 9,150 feet. Cardinal 50 waited 3 hours 45 minutes for the railroad to reopen. Though there were only 2 symbol freights on the single-track former B&O Indianapolis sub, they seemed to get into the Cardinal's way. Look, that used to be double-track.
But it runs so much better now.
Oh.
CSX doesn't care what time the freight gets there.
As long as it gets there.
I don't even think that matters.
I mean, why, it's...
If only there had been an expediter available. Could have gone out there, fix that leak. Dude, sweet.
Oh, done in
And the thing,
20 minutes.
And they're so close to Cincinnati, so they could have got a big thing of Gorilla Glue. Because, no, that's where Gorilla Glue is made. Cincinnati.
Joy.
I know. Okay.
We'll all stand around and look at it.
Okay, hobby-wise, any stamp collectors here?
No.
No.
Okay. Well, the USPS is going to issue special stamps for 2023. Include noteworthy railroad stations. And they've got 5 picked.
Guess what? About 3 years ago, I applied to the United States Postal Service to have an honorary stamp for this year
Mm-hmm.
for Chicago Railroad history.
And?
Never heard back from them. I went through the whole, I followed the procedure, there's this like lengthy procedure to do it. And I did it, and I said, this got, this is a shoo-in. This has to happen.
Yeah. Anyway.
Went down the toilet.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Anyway, the issuance of 20 stamps features 5 architectural gems that continue to play important roles in their communities. The Tamaqua Station in Pennsylvania, the Point of Rock Station in Maryland, the Main Street Station in Richmond, Virginia, the Santa Fe Station in San Bernardino, California, and Union Terminal in Cincinnati. Passenger trains regularly stop at all of them except Tamaqua. The tourist trains don't stop there. Derry Knowles served as art director. Down the Street Designs created the digital illustrations and topography.
Do they have pictures?
No.
No.
Hopefully they will.
They will release them eventually.
Yes.
When you go to the post office again, she'll say, "What kind of stamps do you want?" I have these now. They're new.
Yeah, right.
Not wrong there.
Well, I have special instructions from my dispatcher. She says, get stamps that are small enough to fit on the envelope. She goes, don't let them cover things up. Because sometimes the stamps are pretty big, and the envelopes you get for paying your bills aren't all that big.
Yeah.
So I have to get little stamps. So it means get the flag stamps.
This is funny. They're one of the last red cars in New York City was given on display. Most of them got dumped in the ocean to start reefs. But they got a former Redbird car was removed from its longtime display location outside Queensboro Hall in Kews Garden, New York. On September 16th, 2022, the car was considered surplus by the city and has been sold via an auction to Miss Jasmine Levitt of Los Angeles, California.
What's she gonna do?
The car is shown outside the soon-be-demolished Queens House of Detention in Kew Gardens after it was put onto a lowboy truck to ship it out to California.
Somebody's got money.
This was sitting outside the ladies' prison.
Oh, wow.
It's going to go like on a tagger tour. Every place it goes, somebody's going to tag the car.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be.
That'd be perfect.
Next thing you know, seats are going to be taken out, unless they're already taken out now. Ah, joy.
While you're searching, I got another one here. RTA warns of physical cliff, hints at sales tax expansion and other changes. This is going to go over well. To combat a physical cliff forecast for public transit in 2026, The Regional Transportation Authority is recommending a menu of options that include increasing and expanding the sales tax. Along with revenues, the RTA is exploring system-wide changes to improve transit. Ideas include offering free or reduced fares for low-income residents. That's going to make a lot of money. Using transit as a tool to combat climate change. Oh. And making trips on Metra, Pace, and the CTA safer.
Oh, God.
The RTA argues against slashing service or draconian fare hikes to bridge the gap. Instead, some of the suggested solutions include increasing the RTA sales tax that helps pay for buses and trains, increasing the gas tax, another big that'll go over big time, and expanding the RTA sales tax onto services. If extra revenues do not materialize, the RTA could allow reduced or free rides for low-income passengers, youth, students, or even free fare transit service. I don't know if the revenues do materialize. The RTA could allow free rides. Free rides, yeah. It's like what's the circuit breaker card on the electric? Familiar with that? Circuit breaker card. Basically, you have a circuit breaker card, you ride for free.
Yeah.
So, we used to get these passengers that would come on, it'd be like, circuit breaker, circuit breaker. And I remember one of my conductors, this one guy was really annoying about the circuit breaker card. He says, "Oh, didn't you hear?" He said they suspended that program. This poor guy was beside himself.
Oh, God, I could...
$5 for a ticket.
RTA, Metro Pace, and CTA will work to identify funding for a pilot project
Oh, here we go again.
that would include a regional free or reduced fare program servicing residents in need. I got my senior card. On other topics, the RTA recommends a safety summit for all agencies. It also contingent on funding, advocates for more staff in stations, trains, and buses to work with people to observe safe riding norms and compassionately de-escalate safety situations before they become harmful.
Now we're talking about creating a job, and in the next breath we're going to lay off people. Don't make sense.
You're going to have de-escalate safety situations. I ain't paying my fare. You got these people who won't pay. The conductor can't throw them off. Metro Police show up. They said, "Oh, let them ride." Problem solved. It's de-escalated.
Yeah.
One ongoing frustration for riders
The American way.
is having to cope with 3 separate fare systems. The RTA suggested a system-wide day pass or more discounted transfers will help remove barriers to travel. Another goal is to reduce pollution. RTA analysts noted that public transit represented less than 2% of greenhouse gas emissions from transportation in 2019, while passenger vehicles released about 59% in total. If revenues increase, the agency should transition their fleets to electric vehicles and rail more quickly and more thoroughly. So we're going to have battery-powered trains pretty soon. Actually, they're doing that. They're converting.
I know. We talked about it last month.
We're going to have battery-powered trains.
Yeah, let's see. There's 6 Metro units going to get done.
40s.
Yeah, they're talking.
And then they've got 4 that are being built by Progressive, using the Joule battery.
But eventually they're going to probably want to start looking into hydrogen, just like what Tesla's doing.
Well, they're already doing that. Both Progressive and GE were working on hydrogen engines.
And soon we'll be having the rubber band engine.
Uh-huh.
As the train travels, the rubber band. And then when you stop at the station, it unwinds.
I'm going through my files of interesting subjects and came across the steam engine that went to college. His name's not Thomas.
It's Jose.
My name Jose Jimenez.
My name Jose Locomotive. Well, here we are. We're running afoul of...
Don't go there.
Oh, joy.
No, it actually happened. Actually, in our area, it did go to college. The locomotive was named Schenectady for where it was built.
Well,
What did they teach it?
That's what I want to know.
Okay. It did go to college, but I'm not sure if it was a smooth ride. In September 1891, as there were no tracks yet to the Purdue University campus, the above locomotive was delivered to a siding about 1 mile away from the newly constructed locomotive test plant. Delivery of the engine aroused a great enthusiasm on the part of students, writes Professor Goss. Out of respect, a holiday was declared and a call was made for volunteers to assist in receiving the engine and starting it on its overland journey. Had 1.5 miles to go.
did they get enough students to pick it up and carry it?
Oh, it's good. It does talk about the trip. Let me tell you.
Oh, boy.
The route was taken about 1.5 miles long, was over slightly rolling farmland with on which a wheat crop had been taken up 8 to 10 weeks previous. After a day of little progress, 3 skids were built, each consisting of a pair of 5 by 12 yellow pine timbers for skids, 2 by 12 ties, and 56-pound rails. Recognized forces included 3 pairs of horses with drivers and 2 or 3 men to handle blocking. 1 pair of horses was employed to give forward movement to the engine, the second to draw the skids one after another from rear to front, and the third to pull the heel of the advancing skid into line with one previously placed. On the 8th working day after the start, the engine arrived at the laboratory without incident and without having once touched ground. So marked the beginning of the first full-scale stationary locomotive test plant. Penske's famous Altoona plant did not appear for another 13 years. 1904. But yeah, it seems Purdue University had the first locomotive test facility.
Interesting. I like how they came up with the idea of doing snap tracks there.
Yeah, a friend of mine, he bought a copy of the book because he went online to see if there was an original copy. And it was only $450. Written by William F.M. Goss.
So the first application of 3 units is lead, a middle, and a rear.
Yeah. To move a 440. See, we had a 444. Move it.
Well, you'll be sad to know that Norm Carlson has resigned from the Metro Board of Directors.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A pretty nice guy.
He was.
And a real... he runs a... what's the... first and fastest. Another person who's made numerous promises to me and never came through.
Yeah,
I get the feeling I'm like, the ugly stepsister. I'm the ugly stepsister of rail history.
Oh.
Hey, they broke ground for the Forest Hill flyover
did they?
and the 71st Street grade separation projects.
Ah,
Rail industry and Illinois leaders gathered on October 25th, 2022, to pat themselves on the back. I mean,
yeah.
to shovel some dirt. To mark the start of the construction of the Forest Hill flyover at CSX Forest Hill Yard, the largest project yet under the Chicago Region Environment and Transportation Efficiency Program, also known as CREATE. The group also kicked off construction on the 71st Street grade separation project, which will eliminate an existing CSX grade crossing at 71st Street. The projects are also the first two components out of four major projects that will be implemented as part of the 75th Street Corridor Improvement Project, CREATE officials said in a press release. So, that's interesting. I've sat there many a time on a train, waiting to get the signal. Oh,
So have we all.
yeah, right.
Oh,
Iowa Interstate renames Illinois Yard to honor longtime leader Robert Petrandria. Renamed their Silvis Yard. He started up IAS with Henry Posner, the third.
ah.
Do we want to know what happens in history on these days? 110 years ago, the Chicago and Alden authorized the construction of a new yard along its main T. Glen, Illinois, about 10 miles southwest of Chicago and about 2 miles west of the city limits. The yard was intended to relieve the Brighton Park Yard, 5 miles nearer to the city, of the classification of mainline and interchange business and permit it to be used for the local distribution of freight within the city. And Glen Yard is still there, run by the CN. I spent many a horrible day there, too. 75 years ago, the Rock Island and Pacific Railroad emerged from 15 years of bankruptcy and along an acrimonious reorganization. Didn't do much good. 75 years ago, in 1948, again, the Southern Pacific Railroad and the Chicago Rock Island Pacific Railroad debuted a new lightweight consist for their Golden State passenger train between Chicago and Los Angeles. 75 years ago, again, 1948, the electromotive division of General Motors Corporation produced its very first branch line locomotive, its BL1, a.k.a. the Etzel of locomotives. It was sold to Chicago and Eastern Illinois Railroad on November of 1948 and became that railroad's number 1602, later number 202. The model was developed by EMD to compete with ALCO, American Locomotive Company's RS1 and RS. It's got RS1 and RS1 twice. Must be the RS1 and RS2 road switcher designs. And was EMD's initial attempt to produce a lightweight locomotive for branch line and available for either freight or passenger duties and local switching if required. Also 75 years ago, the Santa Fe Super Chief and El Capitan passenger trains were expanded to daily operation between Chicago and Los Angeles thanks to the arrival of additional new equipment. Both trains ran on a 39 and 3/4 hour schedule. 50 years ago, the Amtrak and Illinois Department of Transportation began scheduled intercity passenger service between Chicago and Dubuque. Wonder what ever happened to that. Over the tracks of the Illinois Central Railroad, marketed as the Blackhawk by Amtrak, it operated on the schedule not unlike that of the Land O'Corn. that had been operated previously on this route by the Illinois Central. 35 years ago, the Illinois Central Gulf ceased to exist as a company and assumed its old name of the Illinois Central. And again, 35 years ago, General Motors announced it would end locomotive assembly at the EMD Electromotive Division LaGrange, Illinois plant and would move the work to EMD's London, Ontario plant. And the last one is 30 years ago, but it's a tragedy, and I won't go there. That's all the news from the Black Hawk.
Let's see. Amtrak still doesn't get it. Tom Nemeth, the editor, he kind of likes to poke at it, Amtrak now and then. Amtrak continues to stumble through the post-pandemic era with inept leadership, no real plan to grow ridership, despite its earlier proclamation to study 30 or more new routes, to build out a network, and a historic infusion of $66 billion in federal funding. America's railroad has long been hobbled by a management team cast off from the airline industry. Does anybody see what might be causing some of the problems?
Trains, planes, they're almost the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
There's cigar tubes with people in them.
Yeah. Well known for the hub and spoke service design. Case in point, here in the Northeast, Amtrak proposed train routes from New York City to Scranton to set to function as a commuter service to New York City. This definitely should be a regional service with New York City connecting Scranton to Binghamton, New York, and then cross the southern tier of New York State to Buffalo, where passengers could get connections west. It's ridiculous for someone living in Scranton to spend 3+ hours riding back to New York City to catch a train to go west. Anywhere. A truly growth-oriented management would have taken the same train, a morning departure out of New York City, and extended even further from Buffalo, providing daylight service to Cleveland. Likewise, the Pennsylvanian from Philadelphia could be extended to, wait for it, to Cleveland instead of Pittsburgh. See, we're starting to build a network here. For the proposed train from Philadelphia to Reading, I'll get to part 2 of that one. That should extend from Reading to Harrisburg. Instead of merely a commuter run, it's a network concept. We just dump Amtrak's jet set management and hire competent railroaders who understand network contents. They will drive ridership and revenue growth. And tired excuse is we don't have any money for that. Just doesn't play well anymore.
Nope.
Now,
Yeah,
they
money
said,
for somebody
okay.
who doesn't know nothing about railroading.
Exactly.
Well, that's how it's been going for the last man railroader in there was Clater.
Mm-hmm.
Mormon was in there.
Right.
And they started doing things a little bit right, and they make sure they got him out real quick.
Mm-hmm.
But now, I did read that Amtrak is going to start the service with 2 trailway buses from Reading to Philadelphia.
Ambus.
On bus.
Ambus.
Ambus.
Ambus. It's a division of Amtrak. Jeez.
You know, it's funny as what Amtrak didn't do. They were approached when Amtrak first started up, to have their trains in a movie. The movie was Silver Street with Gene Wilder and stuff. Well, that's where a Amroad came in on the side, and Canadian National was more than happy to help them. So the first movie Amtrak actually did was called Disaster on the Coastline.
I remember watching that movie on TV.
I have yet to find a copy of it, but by God, it's all over the internet.
Yeah, right.
It's a great movie.
Especially with the terrorist-proof cap.
You'll find a copy, knowing you.
Oh, I'm still looking. I am still looking.
Right, somebody's got that, a bunch of copies, hidden away in their basement,
That
some other
is,
goofy
that
blogger
is, oh
or
jeez.
whatever.
Oh, if I can find that vault, I mean, that's right alongside Plan 9 from outer space. Oh. And then, and to switch the track with all that fragment.
Switching the track to the other, yeah. Yeah, we're just going to watch the F-40 jump off the other end. Okay, no problem.
They should have got a hold of Alfred Hitchcock. At least he's done it right a couple times for a good train wreck. Oh.
Okay.
Well, no. Well, the guy that did the train, he did a real good train wreck.
Yeah.
And the most famous shot in the movie happened by accident.
Ooh.
Well, the train was supposed to be set at 30 miles an hour, and it came down. I think they clocked it at 37.
Ooh.
So it got a little
Fast.
bang. They had 13 cameras. Where do you want to go? Put them anywhere you want. The wreck itself, I think, tore up 8 cameras. John Frankenheimer. And he says, that was the biggest pain in the ass, huh? Setting that up, and he goes, so what they did, they had one camera left, and they buried it. And wouldn't you know, that was the spot where that wheel off the tender hit and just sat there spinning. They were sitting around going, they were hearing this noise, whirling noise. What's that? They found out it was the camera in there. And that's the shot that they put in the movie.
This is the train.
Yeah. One with Burt Lancaster. Yeah, that's the one where the the French engineer who didn't give a heck. And
Yeah, La Biche. La Biche.
Le Biche.
They shot him.
Yeah, that's a shame too. I like that guy.
Yeah, right.
I mean, he was your standard engineer.
Right.
He could have been Paul Hallucci. Oh.
What do you say?
Yeah, I think it's about ready for us
about
to...
time for the tire down.
Yeah. Yeah. As our express comes into the terminal, we want to thank you for joining us on our journey through the wonderful world of trains. Chicago Junction is a production of the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and can be listened to on the web at www.windycityhometown.com, where you can listen to tonight's broadcast In all our past episodes, you can also sample some of the other fine programs that are being offered. Till next month, when we journey to the Chicago Junction, this is your announcer, Brian Blue, saying happy rails to you, and good night, Mr. Ryan, wherever you are.
You have been listening to Chicago Junction from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Wednesday, January the 11th, the year 2023. Chicago Junction is produced by John DeVita and produced and directed by John DeVita, and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network is Mr. John Shikanda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Wednesday, January the 11th, the year 2023. Until next time, friends, please be safe and thanks for listening.